We're back at It Starts Now, the happy hour finance and business. My name is Stanley. For you guys that are new to the channel, first of all, I'd like to thank you for stopping by. And for those that continuously support us, I just want to say thank you as well. And for you guys to please continue to share the content, subscribe. This will help us to continuously bring you guys some amazing people with amazing stories to share. My guest today, Dre Manning. Now, let me give you a quick background of Dre Manning. He has a new clothing brand. What he has going on right now is the brand is new, is part of a school initiative. Donation is really a good cause. Is out there to support a lot of education. They just had a soft launch recently, and we just like to introduce him and talk about everything that he got going on. He's also a co-founder of two other media companies that are doing very well. So please, before we continue to dive in, let me introduce my man, Dre Manning. Welcome, Dre. How are you
today? Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm doing wonderful. I'm just, I'm happy I'm able to be here today to talk with you, just about the things that I have going on and to learn about you and you learn about me. I think that's like one of the most beautiful things with communication and just technology, right? Like the ability for us to be able to do this right now.
Absolutely. And for us to do it in sometimes being home, you feel like you're confined and you can't really communicate as much. And having this technology and having this opportunity to reach out to different people and network, I think that's an amazing thing. It keeps everybody in touch, right? Sort of like that's why I think that Clubhouse is making a good push right now, is because the audio and the communication, but everybody all in one place, sharing thoughts and ideas, and then piggybacking off of each other. And I think technology has taken us that far, so that's a great thing.
Yeah, it just allows people to communicate. It feels like one big house party, right? Like
absolutely,
and yeah, it's like one big house party, and just being able to connect, especially with what's going on right now in 2020, 2021. Just this, the not being able to connect and have, like, sometimes in some people's cases, not only human interaction, but adult interaction, like outside of their spouses and their siblings who may be adults as well. So I think, just things like this, Clubhouse, they just allow us to connect and make us realize even more how important it is to interact with people, right? Because I think we were going down this tunnel where we spent so much time glued to a phone. And I think COVID and this pandemic has allowed people to say, hey, I think I want to talk to people and not just stare into my phone all day.
That's a valid point right there. And we do that a lot. One of the habits that I found myself getting out of, where I broke the cycle, I should say, is having my phone with me 24/7. And one of the things I saw the benefits of that for me has been the ability to get, first, number one, I get some more rest because I'm not on my phone. And it's unbelievable when you think about it, how many people take their phone to bed with them. And the moment I stopped that, I was like, all right, I'm no longer distracted. I'm not getting those notifications. I'm actually getting some quality rest that's needed for me to actually function for the rest of the day. And when I wake up in the morning, another benefit I found about it is not having your phone attached to you. Like I place it in a different room. So when I wake up in the morning, I still have an hour to myself before I get distracted or all these other things that comes along the way. And I'm trying to put out fires 24/7, or even just getting distracted because ESPN is a bad tool for me, because then I like to keep updated. Yeah. I don't watch as much games, but I like to keep updated.
Same here. I've one of my habits that I've developed was I record everything onto my phone. So like my mantras, my goals, everything is there. And I did that was because a friend of mine told me, let the first voice that you hear in your mind be your own. Right?
Oh, I like that.
So what I do is when I wake up, I'm in like complete silence. I give myself about 20, 30 seconds just to sit there and calibrate. And then I get up. I go start like my morning routine, brush my teeth. I got my AirPods on and I'm listening to my mantra. Then I'm listening to my goals. But it's my voice. And, I might even like listen to it while I'm scrolling through ESPN. But that's also the last time I check ESPN for the day.
I like that.
So like just having these particular habits allow me to still do some of that. Like I was looking, you know, like with iPhones, they tell you you've had this much screen time this week. You know, I'm looking at like 4 to 5 hours of screen time a week.
That's not bad.
It's not bad at all. Because
Mm-mm.
before I was averaging like 10 to 15 hours a week.
That's a
Right.
big. That's a big cut.
Yeah. And it was all because like I just told myself, hey, I'm gonna pay attention to this content in the morning. And then later on in the evening, I'll just focus on other things that, you know, that nourish me. So like I'll read a book, or I'll hang with my kids, or, you know, maybe I just want to unwind and I might just play some Call of Duty, right? Like just something that allows me to decompress and just kind of relax.
Let's get right into it. I like what you're doing with the brand. I think it's a great cause and a great initiative. And talk about the soft launch. But before you do that, talk about what was the inspiration behind creating the Nine brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, the Nine brand is, you know, this hat and apparel brand that I'm launching. I'm the sole founder of the company. And it was something that I knew I wanted to, I wanted to start another business venture outside of my media companies. I just didn't know what I wanted that thing to be. So like I looked into beard palm because at this time I had like this really nice beard, and you know I looked into wave grease and combs and different things that was kind of like low maintenance, and wouldn't require me to be fully involved in the company.
Mm-hmm.
After doing some research, like at one point I bought some beard balm, some beard oils and all of that stuff from like a company in Texas where you could private label the products and things like that. I bought some. It got here maybe like a month and a half later. By then I cut my beard off. Completely cut it off. They had no way of testing the product to see if it was going to be any good. And then I started to really think about like my values and who I am as a person. And starting a company for me isn't just, oh, I'm starting a company to create um, another stream of income. Yeah, that's part of it. But the other part of it is how am I impacting the people that's around me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And how is this company going to impact the people around me? How is this company going to be bigger than just me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So once I was really just like, well, you know, with the beard balm, I don't really see how this would align with me as a person and my values. I had to take a step back and go, well, what can I do that once again is still really like kind of low maintenance, doesn't require too much of me for to do, but there's some type of impact I can make with it. And I was literally standing in my bedroom, staring at a mirror, and all of my hats were right next to them. And I have like a bunch of hats. Like I have a bunch of hats, right? Because I mean, outside of this, I'm bald headed, so you know you don't want to go outside unprotected. You know, like there's no hair up there to protect you from
Right.
the sun. So I'm always wearing a hat, and I'm staring at these hats, and I'm like, wow, I'm always wearing other people's hats. I'm never
Mm.
wearing. It's my hat because I purchased it, but it's not my hat. It
Yeah.
does like I'm always wearing other people's hats, and I said, wow, that's it right there. I'm going to start a hat brand. And then I started to look at like snapbacks and fitteds and beanies and brimless hats and like all of these different types of hats. And I said, you know what? Let's just order them all. So I ordered all of them different hats, right? And then I was like, all right, I only like snapbacks. I only like how they look, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the part for me was now what's going to keep me motivated to do this company? And initially I was like, wow, you know, the biggest issue right now when I look outside is that there's no parks, right? And in the parks that we do have, they're just like filled with like filth.
Right.
So what if I partnered with organizations to do neighborhood restorations? Right. So like we're going into parks and we're fixing up parks, we're putting hoops on the court, we're repainting the basketball courts, we're fixing the slides, we're repainting those things. And then I was like, you know what? When I was a kid, I had community centers too. My kids don't have like, yeah, there's after school programs and
There's
CBOs and things
limited
like
right
that,
now.
but it's limited, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what about all of these like community rooms that are just empty, and like the buildings, the management is like charging thousands of dollars to like rent it out per month. But what if we just turn them into community centers? All right, cool. Let's actually start looking into not only park restoration, but how can we rebuild these community centers and open them back up for after school programs that are outside of the school building, for enrichment programs for children. That's still part of the plan. That's still part of that 5-year plan to make that happen. But I had to take a step back and go, well, what can I do right now? So the first thing, creating the 9 brand was the easiest part. Creating this actual company was the easiest part. The hardest part of this entire process was figuring out what impact are we going to make and how are we going to go about making it, right? So now it was like, all right, cool. We can't find organizations, or we're struggling to find organizations that deal with like community restoration. What's something else that we could look at? Last year, when the pandemic hit, I did over 300 Zoom calls.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like in my, like all of my social media, my nickname is Zoom Call Poppy. Right. Like, so like, because I did so many of them. So, but whenever I was on any of these calls, whenever I would stumble while I was reading something on screen or while I was talking, I would go, pardon me, I went to public school. And I got a laugh out of everybody every single time I did it. Like, no matter what, pardon me, I went to public school. Pardon me, I went to public school. And that's when it clicked. I went to public school.
Wow, the two things that made the connection,
Right.
the hats being on the wall and you
Yeah.
staring at it, and
Mhm.
then the other aha moment when you realize that, listen, I went to public school. This is where I need to put my effort to.
Yeah. And just like, I have 4 sons. I'm a proud dad of 4 sons, and 3 of them go to public schools, but they're fortunate to go to public schools that are well off. Like they're privileged.
Well graded.
How?
They got a high grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So like, but they're surrounded by schools that don't have a high grade.
Yeah.
And then,
Not to cut you off, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the grading system until I got a lot older. And you start to realize that your neighborhood does play a big important role, a big important impact on you growing up. Because if you're in the wrong neighborhood, you got to look at what's around you, right? Your surroundings. And one of the things I realized was once you're graded, once that school's graded, it doesn't really necessarily change. It's the people who have to go in and make the impact on that school.
mm-hmm.
Because the school's already been graded. There hasn't been that great of a performance. But now it takes the community to help build that school so that way you can change. But that was interesting. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So just recognizing how my kids, like they go to these schools and like they can go on trips and we don't have to pay extra money for them to go on trips. They're able to experience so much, like just different enrichment programs. But then regardless of that, my children are my children. They were going to be fine whether they went to these schools or not. Right.
Right.
But then thinking like you just said, you really become a product of where you're from. And the one thing, like if we talk about like equity and inclusion, the one thing that really doesn't have a real conversation around us, we're not having a real conversation around, is access. We can include these children. We can build equitable systems for these children. But the reality is if they don't have the access, and a lot of these times access means money, why does it matter? It doesn't matter. They can't partake in it anyway. Oh, we gave them the opportunity to sign up for a program on financial literacy for kids, but they couldn't afford the $350 for the program. Right.
True.
So it's like, yeah, I know their parents have to figure those things out. But imagine if Jamal could get a grant, could be part of a grant program where his cost is covered, and now he learns about stocks at 10 years old, and here he is at 14 trading stocks.
Right.
Teaching his little brother, teaching his dad, teaching his mother, his uncle.
Mm-hmm.
He
that
just
has a whole impact on the house.
Exactly. He just changed the trajectory of his entire family, right? So that's what we aim to do, was to create this grant program that not only are we giving you money, but we want to know where this money is going and how it is going to enrich the youth around you. COVID taught us one thing, and that was skills are going to take you far. And if you're lacking skills, you're going to have a really big problem.
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on that, because one of the things that I shared with the team was, it's not that the skills that you have with, well, it depends. You're absolutely 100% right, because you're going to need to acquire skills, but you're going to need to acquire new skills at that too, because the same old skills that got you before COVID, pre-COVID,
Mhm.
then it won't take you that far after COVID, because things
Exactly.
have changed right now,
Yeah.
and the internet made it so, especially if you're going to introduce what's coming up in the blockchain and everything, that's where they trying to do hand in hand. We're cutting out the middleman slowly,
Hmm.
and we're getting more into vendoring, where,
Hmm.
okay, I can directly go to you if you have that certain skill set. But if you haven't, if you COVID happened, what, or it's still in the process of a year, and if you haven't developed a new skill set within that year time frame, then there's a chance that you may get left behind, because so many people are developing their skills. Now it's more so because the job's going to be limited. It starts to come down to the quality of the skill set,
Hmm.
and that's
Absolutely.
when, and that you got to train the kids, and to be not necessarily be extremely competitive, but have to understand that the quality of skill set is going to have to improve, because it's going to narrow down to who could do it the best and who you're willing to pay for the best. So I'm glad you point that out.
Absolutely. And all right. So like a lot of the things that I do at times are kind of like a reflection of self. I'm someone who I think everybody should go to school, right? I think everybody should go to school. I think everybody should, but I also feel like everybody should figure out what's best for them at the same time, right? So it's like, go to school. It might be the best thing for you. Try entrepreneurship. It might be the best thing for you. Try investment, but try something, right? And figure out what's the best thing for you. Do I think everybody's going to become a scholar? No. Do I think everybody's going to become an entrepreneur? Nope. Do I think everybody should invest? Absolutely. But you might not be the greatest investor ever. You might just be a great employee, and that is okay. Um, but when I look at myself and I think about like how I had access to a computer in my household. Like my mother did her best to make sure that we had a computer in the house and internet, even if we had to deal with the AOL dial-up, right? We
Hmm.
still had internet, right? And we were able to do research. And realizing like my wife is reading a book called The Poor Privilege. That was me. I was the poor privileged.
Break that down.
So it pretty much is the poor privilege is someone who still lives in poverty but has access to going to like private schools, um, additional resources, whether it's computers and internet in their household or being able to take trips with their family, but you still are kind of living in impoverished neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Um, and that's pretty much who I am. And at times, my children could be viewed as that as well. Me and my wife are having this conversation as well. Like we're not lower middle class anymore. We're somewhere we've moved on up, right? But we have to acknowledge that and realize, like, hey, there are people who don't think that they could ever get to this space. Like they don't know, you know, that they can get to this level of access.
Mhm.
So but this in my opinion, I think this mindset is built into them from childhood because you're pulling in so much. We talk so much how kids are sponges, children are sponges.
Mhm.
So if they're paying attention to the same thing every day, they spend 8 hours a day in school. When they go to school, they see the same person on the corner that when they come home. They're seeing their parents and how they're navigating. They're measuring themselves and deciding where do they want to be in life. You know, kids pay attention to so much, and we both know this because we were both kids. Let's not even talk about it like we weren't kids. We were both kids. My mom was an avid cigarette smoker. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, right? Because I told
Mhm.
myself like I'm not trying to be this person who smokes cigarettes all the time. I
Yeah.
made that decision from like 9 years old. I'm 34, right? So like just knowing that hey, our children are paying attention to these things and they're developing. They might not be the adult decisions, but they're making decisions, right? that, hey,
Yeah.
this is where I want to take my life and this is the direction that I want to go in. So just being able to provide some type of support is what the Nine brand aims to do.
Yeah. One thing I'm glad you touched on was the uh, children do form of opinion, and it, necessarily it's not the right opinion sometimes, but they still form an opinion because it's in their mind it's unbiased. They're just looking at what they see right in front of them. They don't have like context to it, so they don't understand. There's a reason why your parents probably going out there smoking cigarettes probably because they're stressed out from the long day, or this person is having a glass of wine because the context is not there. They're just looking at the actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when they form that opinion, it's because they're trying to sometimes they're trying to mirror that personality because that's all they to your point, that's all they see.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I remember my dad used to smoke cigarettes too, and it had such a disdain on me that I didn't want to do it at all. So I never tried a cigarette because I never felt the need.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something that's something that the outside world, I think subconsciously growing up and seeing or smelling or something, it triggered something enough where it said, "Nah, I don't want to do that." You know, there was probably some other habits I picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was something that probably triggered and said, "Nah, I don't want to do that."
Yeah.
So you're right. Children do mirror, and they form an opinion that is unbiased because they have no context to it.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, we we have to take the opportunity while they're there in the household to make it, even if you can't afford to do certain things, but try to give them a paradigm shift, like do different activities in the house or something that's going to energize or spark their mind so that way they could become creative. But one thing I've come to the conclusion that sometimes your childhood is the reason why you well, so some successful people, because when I look at Tyler Perry and I look at certain people that go through a rough childhood, sorry, they come to become they create this imaginary, they become more creative because they find ways to look at the world differently, and because they have this internal battle that they have in within themselves, that they start to become so creative that they draw a whole different world around them, and they become successful. So it's a combination of your life having an impact on you in a both positive or negative, but it's also how you look at it growing up and what fuels you. What can you pull from it? All right, is am I going to pull the good from this, or I'm going to pull the negative? Um, so that's why you have to be on top of kids and really give them that love that they need and nurture them with the positive and the uh, all those good affirmations, um, positive image to keep them going because you never know what the impact it has long impact. And that's why I think it's important that some of us do go to therapy and try to figure out if we have some internal issues that we may not know about on the surface, but subconsciously it's just stopping us, it's blocking us from our blessing. But
Absolutely.
but I like the fact that all that is geared. The Nine brand is geared to really make an impact in the community and make an impact in the kids' lives.
Thank you.
And I like that where the inspiration came from. The other thing I wanted to touch on was like now we know the objectives, right? And what you're trying to gain out of this, right? But what's the ultimate goal for the Nine brand?
So honestly, like if we're looking at growth size, I'd want the Nine brand to be as big as a Tom's, as big as Bomba's socks, right? As big as those initiative based brands. That yeah, they have because a lot of their model is like buy one, give one. Well, I know Tom's made the change in 2019 into a grant program quietly. A lot of people don't even know that. They still think that Tom's is working with a buy one, get one model. Bombas is working with a buy one, get one model still. Ideally, my overall goal would be for us to be as big as that because that makes the impact even bigger, right? Now
Right.
we can say, hey, uh, Instead of working with one school per year or one CBO per year, we're able to work with 60 schools per year or 60 schools per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and really, really make major change, right? I think even getting to a space where our 10% like looks like, wait, 10% a year, what is that? 70
Right.
million, right? Like where it's like, wow, that's like bigger than what people would think it is, right? You know, of course, it being an apparel brand, do I want to see it grow? Of course. I want it to be like as big as a Supreme or a Rock Nation or even a, maybe not a Gucci because that's like high fashion. I don't care about
Why
that.
not?
I, uh,
Things
yeah,
are anything's possible in this
yeah, no,
world.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think, in order for us to get to that level of like that, I would like as far as the apparel side, in order for us to get to that level, we have to continue to grow in what we're doing for our community. It can't just be a hey, you're rocking our stuff and we love that, and we're posting the pictures and we're doing very performative stuff. No, we're gonna really believe and live down what we're doing. So we're not just doing it for clout. We're not just doing it just to say, hey, it's Black History Month. Let's put out some black, green, and red hats. You know what I'm saying? It's Spanish Heritage Month. Let's put out some DR, Spain, Puerto Rico flavors. Like, no, let's really live what we say we're about, and let's continue to push for for change. And do that from the foundation, right? So where we're at now, if this is the foundation, right? This is ground zero. When we get to the 50th floor, I can only imagine where we're gonna be at.
Mm, I like that. I like that concept a lot.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Now let's touch on the other two companies that you founded. You have Solman and Black Crown Media. Let's break that down.
Yeah, so a Soul Man is actually the oldest of the three companies. I started a Soul Man in 2017, like kind of just by myself branching off, and I wanted to create short films, documentaries, and things like that. And I, for the most part, I was able to create two short films. One was really bad, the other one was kind of good. Um,
Honesty at its
yeah,
finest.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was able to also start working on a documentary about African American or Black American culture. And I say it in that way because how I look at like I just say it in that way because just trying to figure out what Black culture is and what Black American culture is, because I
Mhm.
realized like it gets separated. So like one of the tagline for it was I'm too Black to be African and I'm too American. No, I'm too Black to be American and I'm too American to be African. So where do I belong?
Mm.
So that was the documentary that we were working on and we're still working on to this day. I was told working on documentaries is a marathon, and I was like, oh, whatever. They were right. It is.
Because it's a lot of research, right?
A lot of research.
And you got to match the days with the times. So you got to match the stories. You got to make sure things are correct.
Yeah.
It's not like it's self autobiography where you're talking about yourself and you're giving details, but you're actually doing the research.
And then also traveling, right? So like
Right.
because Blackness in New York City is not viewed the same in Denver. It's
Mhm.
also not viewed the same in Alabama. It's also not viewed the same in Atlanta or Mississippi, right? It's in the United States, it's definitely viewed in different ways. Like we might have some similarities, like when it comes to food, but like somebody else's definition of Black is different. So it's like the purpose of the documentary was to figure out what is this um, uniformed, definition of what our culture is, because I felt like so many other people were telling us what it is. And then we were also allowing people to define it in a negative way, whereas like, if you listen to like if you carried yourself in a certain way, you were like being told stop acting Black or you're being really Black. Like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Right. So a Soul Man was literally started to create projects around that, like to talk about Blackness and to also capture Black stories in a beautiful way, right? Like, and show that we're multi-dimensional characters. We're not just singular level characters that we're constantly portrayed as. Jamal, 25 years old, from the Bronx, drug dealer. That's it. Like, we're not going to talk about the fact that Jamal is like a math wizard and he can like calculate numbers in a split second. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason he became a drug dealer is because his dad died, and you know his mother is working 20 jobs, so he wants to help.
That's why
Jamal,
it's important to have context.
yeah, so like Jamal has so many different layers, but when you leave it up to like mainstream media to portray these characters that we know, many of us know, and we know the depth of who they are, we get this very singular level, super violent, hyper, uh,
Superficial.
yeah, character that is just like, I don't know anybody like that, right? And so instead of just sitting back and going, you know, I was really inspired by Tyler Perry when he opened up the studio in Atlanta, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I don't want to just sit back and wait for them to build a table and them say, hey, you know, you guys, I guess you could bring a chair, you know, like, no, we're gonna build a table and we're gonna do it at this level as well. But with anything, you need money to create content. You need money to create films. And that's why we started Black Crown Media. Once again, going back to impact, right? Everything,
Impact, man. It's
right? So
very important.
it was just like, hey, you need money, we need grants. And I know so many filmmakers, white, black, Asian, who are like, yo, you know, I've been working on this film for 10 years and I'm still waiting to get a grant to finish it. And I was just like, man, we have all these skills and we're not utilizing it to our best of our ability so that we can finish these films. So we started Black Crown Media so that we could fund films.
Fun films, and so you're the one, you're running like a venture capitalist.
Almost,
So
but
you
for video production. Well,
okay,
for filmmakers.
okay.
Like literally, so like we could run like, so what we did was with Black Crown Media, it's a
Mm-hmm.
digital marketing company. We focus on e-commerce business on the ad side, like running ads for them, and then we also have a video production component as well. For on our highest ticket, we are running we are building marketing and sales systems for attorneys. So everything from paid advertisement to email and SMS marketing, we're doing that for attorneys. We then are building out a grant under that to fund films for Soul Man and for other producers and filmmakers. So literally, we're going out using our skills
Mm-hmm.
to then turn around and produce passion projects for ourselves and others.
Okay, so is it accurate for me to say that you guys are also distributing as well?
So we're not distributing. We would love to. I know that was something that we had spoken about in the beginning, like as far as like, hey, maybe creating a streaming platform where we would be able to do that. Capacity wise and bandwidth wise, it kind of was just something that stayed on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't digged any further. We spoke with a we let me not say it stayed, it just sat on the table as if we just spoke about it and left it. We actually even went as far as talking to developers for a platform, like to build out the software so that we can create a streaming platform.
Okay, so but right now you just do things internally as far as getting the creating the content, putting the content out, but it's not on a streaming platform. But
Yeah,
if you had now, let me ask you this now: if you had a streaming platform that you can push it out from, like let's say a Netflix or a Damien Dash Studio or whatever, and that would be something that you would be interested in because now you get a something you could funnel it through.
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So
So it's
now it's not
go
like,
ahead.
instead of the film just going from, from production to Vimeo or YouTube, now you have this ability to say, hey, my short film, my long film, my feature film, my documentary is being streamed on X platform, right? Like, regardless of what platform it is, I think as a filmmaker, yeah, of course you want to make it to like the Netflix, the Hulus, and the big screen, right?
Hmm.
But just being able to say, hey, I was able to get my film featured on a platform that is not YouTube or Vimeo, which you have complete control over, I think that's incredibly powerful. So if one day if we have that opportunity to do it, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, to me, I believe streaming is the future anyway. So,
Absolutely.
it has been the decade for streaming, and I think it's only just getting started because people are comfortable viewing things at their own time,
Yes.
right? And I think that's one of the key advantages that the streaming has, that you're able to watch it whenever you want to watch it. But I think having your own platform, you dictate what comes on or what you put out, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
So now you create the content. You let's say you have somebody like filmmakers. They want to come in. They want to. So you basically have a studio where they could come in and work.
So right now, no.
Okay, so then how do you get the content from them, or you just create it yourself?
So what
How does
happens?
a collaboration happen? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what happens often is, well, just the benefit of working in this space for like 10 years, you meet so many different people,
Hmm.
from folks who have ideas for TV shows to folks who have ideas for, and when I say TV shows, I mean whether it's a sitcom, like a single camera sitcom, or like I've even had people approach me about reality TV shows. Um, they'll pitch the idea to me. Sometimes it comes like on a one sheet. They'll pitch the idea to me. If I like how it sounds, I'm willing to put like not necessarily a monetary investment behind it, but like, hey, we'll put our equipment behind it. So we'll give you access.
More like a sweat equity.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. So like
Okay.
for equity investment behind it. So now they get access to our cinema cameras, our microphones, lights, cameras, etc. And then we even come on board. So I would most likely, let's say my guy Corey, shout out to Corey. He's constantly bringing me different ideas. And one of them, I was coming on board just to be the cinematographer, but my company was producing the project, right? So typically you can come to me, pitch an idea to me, and if I like it, we move forward and I want to hear more. If it's something scripted, I need to read the script. My team needs to read the script. If we like it, then we move forward. Um, and a lot of the times folks don't just have access to the equipment. I've I if I flip my camera around, you'd see how much equipment I have right now just set up in my living room. And but that's my privilege, right? Is that I have access to this equipment. So when I meet filmmakers, young, old, whatever, if they have an idea and it sounds great, I'm always down to like help them film it in some type of way, or just provide them with the equipment to do it.
Okay. And when you help with the filming process of it, what role do you take? Do you take the role of being a director? Do you take the role of the cameraman? What role is it exactly that you take on?
So typically, I'll ask somebody what do they presently have, right? So most people are coming to me like, I want to direct this. I wrote it. I want to direct it. I'm like, okay, I don't care, right? It's okay. It's okay. Like I don't want to take on that role. One of
Right.
my favorite things outside of directing is cinematography. So I love designing shots, setting up, designing how a lighting of a scene is going to be. I just love it. Like just being able to capture that image and knowing like, yo, we staged this. Like we put these. When I watch movies, these are the things that I'm watching for. So like I'm watching that this person is wearing a yellow shirt, but the room has green tones, and now there's an orange couch. Like, wow, they stayed in this palette of orange and yellow, and then they brought in green because it's the opposite spectrum. Like, I'm paying attention to all of these things, and I truly, truly enjoy it. So I would always ask, hey, if you don't have a cinematographer, I would love to come in that role.
So,
Now,
yeah.
if for those who don't know what a cinematographer's job is, it's literally their job to design the shot. The director does not design the shot. He or she tells the story. The cinematographer will design the shot. What's in frame, what's not in frame, what's out of frame that you don't notice that they're putting there because it feels more lifelike, right? You ever watch a movie and go, why is there so many damn lights on?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's intentional, right? Like
Mhm.
the purpose of those practicals is to make you feel like you're in somebody's house and you're part of that scene, right? um that is the job of a cinematographer, is to bring that visual side of life to life.
Mhm.
The job of the director is to bring the words to life, make the characters feel real. But the job of the cinematographer is to make the visual feel lifelike, and you should be in this moment, right? choosing certain lighting colors. Like I love that part of it. So I always ask, hey, if you don't have a cinematographer, I'm down for that, right? Because that, like, to be honest, and I'm probably giving up the cheat code, it's a lot more fun than being a director because the director has to deal with everybody else, actors included. Cinematographer is dealing with the lighting, the lights, and set design, and the camera team.
I watch a lot of movies, and I'm glad you broke that down, right? Because now I'm gonna go back and really analyze things.
Mhm.
Um, but I do watch a lot of movies, and there's two parts. I was watching, and I seldomly watch like episodes because I get hooked on. So I try not to get knee deep into an episode type of series because then I'm gonna go all the way to the season ending, and so I try not to get knee deep into that because I don't want to get caught up. But I was watching Shield the other night, right? Old thing. I said, you know what, let me put it on, and once again I get hooked.
Mhm.
And but I like the way there was a part in the film, and they did this too in Avengers 1, where they had the camera was constantly rotating in and out as the person is talking, but it's bouncing off of people. Like say, let's when one character is over here, the camera's going underneath and around, and immediately when the other one is speaking, it just like gravitates to the side and then circles back around. Who handles that part?
So the cinematographer designs the shot. It's the camera operator who's actually doing it.
So explain to me how that conversation happens.
Yeah. So it starts from the director. The director will come and go, hey, this scene, I just love the way that it flows. And I feel like we should do it all in one take. Right.
Mhm.
So then from there, the cinematographer has to design the room so that it can be filmed in one take, so that the camera operator, whether it's one, two, maybe three operators working on that one scene, they can pass the camera off to each other at different stages. Now,
Ah,
there is another way of doing it. Let's say you're on a low budget film, you only have one camera operator, but your camera operator also happens to be a cinematographer. Is that a lot of the times when the camera goes into somebody's black cloth, black shirt, and then comes out, and now you're seeing somebody's black hair, the moment that it went into that person's shirt, there was a cut made. So that now when they're coming out of the hair, that's a whole new cut. Now,
mm,
so it could be done in, so it's done in two ways. So now the other way is bringing in the editor. So now it's the director, the cinematographer, the camera operator, the editor, right? And then the first way that I was talking about was the director, cinematographer, um, camera operator, and several camera operators who are they're not staging, what's the term I'm looking for? Choreographed. They're choreographing the scene. So it's like, hey, when you get to the pool, hand the camera over to Stanley. Stanley, when you get out the pool, you're going to hand the camera to Jamal. Jamal, when you get over
mm.
here, you're going to pass this up onto a dolly, and then the dolly's going to move up. And then, Dre, you got to make sure you're up there in time to grab the camera because now you're going to walk it off and take us into another part of the scene. Well, if you ever get a chance, watch the behind the scenes of the Straight Out of Compton pool party, and everything that I just said happens in that pool party scene.
Man, it looks like a dance that's going on. That's a
It
lot
is.
of you gotta. So, in other words, you have to not only you have to trust the person, right? You
Mhm.
got to trust the next cameraman that's going to pass it along to the next cameraman, and then you got to also trust whoever's navigating or directing. You have to trust their vision too,
Yep.
because I've seen movies where and I am guilty of watching a movie towards the end, even though I know it's trash, because for some reason I feel like okay, in my mind I'm hoping it's getting better
Yeah.
because it would have a great storyline, but the way it was produced or the way it was filmed wasn't the best quality, and
Mhm.
you're hoping that it's getting better because the storyline is so great
Mhm.
and or but the actor cannot deliver, but sometimes the actor's doing their best because you can see that they can, but it's just the whole production of it is not the best quality.
Yeah.
And so you definitely have to trust the director's vision to know where they're going with it, and then you have to I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a whole lot of trust that's needed to film certain things.
Yeah. Most production teams have worked with each other for years.
Mm.
You know, like uh Donald Glover uses the same cinematographer for all of his stuff. I believe his name is Hiro. He's a Japanese brother. Uses him for everything. Right, music videos, short films, feature films. He's called, if Donald is producing it, if his company's producing it, that's who he's hiring, because they speak each other's language. And that's what's really important, is that you're able to speak each other's language and work together in such a magnificent way. Whereas I can say, man, I know what you want. Let's go. Boom. Throw the camera on your shoulder and let's film it. And then you're ready to go. It's not like filmmaking is like one of the best sports ever, but where everybody listens to the coach and the coach is the director. Everybody is on board and believe in a coach. There's nobody on set who is just like, oh my God, this is the worst director ever. No, they're like, yo, he's a genius. She's a genius. And that's why I'm here. Like, when they call me, I come running, right? Like, now you know what? Let me walk that back, because it's not like that with all cases. There are some cases where people are like, man, they paying. Right? They're paying.
True.
When you have teams that have been working together for years, they believe in each other. They believe in each other and they continue to show up for each other. I think a great example of this, and they do it on a level where they're not actually making a lot of money. There's this company, if you don't mind me plugging somebody else, like,
No, go ahead.
yeah, they're called Film Riot. And I think anybody watching this, whoever wants to learn video or film or production editing, definitely check them out. They're based out of Texas, but they have been working together since like 2013, 14. And you literally watch the host of the show, you watch his sister grow up throughout the entire like years that they've been on it. From being a little Starky, not Starky, his sister was like a little smartass, right? And now she's a grown up, like, and she's still a smartass. But the fact, like, you know, like you get to see her grow from this period. It's almost like watching Full House all over again. But you're watching it with filmmakers and seeing that they always work together. They're constantly working together, and that's what's really important in a space like this, is having a high level of communication and even higher level of understanding of each other.
So now, when you break it down, you could tell that you have the passion for it. Like this is what you really enjoy, and I get a lot, entrepreneurs. We enjoy creating multiple businesses. We like to start businesses. We like to build things, right? And we like to see the outcome of certain things. There's some entrepreneurs are good starters, but not great closers, right? And there's vice versa. There's some that they're not the best starters of the company, but man, they could run an operation. They could tell you X, X, Y, and Z. But you got to know which style or which type you are, because not everyone has those type of. Not everyone is gifted. There are some. There's some unicorns out there that's completely gifted, where they can do both. They can start and finish a company out. They have their exit plan. They have everything structured and ready. Now, I know what you're trying to do with the 9 brand. What is it that the ultimate goal that you're trying to do with this media company?
Yeah. So I can tell you with Black Crown, and they get mad at me whenever I say this, but my goal with Black Crown is in the next 10 years to leave it. So my goal is in the next 10 years to leave Black Crown.
So you got your exit plan already?
Yeah, I already have an exit plan.
Okay.
I'm 10 years in, and I'm ready to step down. Right now, as far as like titles, I am like the CEO of it. But like I'm looking to step down in the next 10 years and have like that next young person in their 20s and they early 30s step in and take the marketing company to the next level. I don't want to be the old head that's still trying to hold on to his glory and say, man, I understand this world. You know, like, nah, let the next young fella come in, and then me focus solely on a Soul Man. When it comes to a Soul Man Productions, man, I'm trying to reach Tyler Perry levels.
Hmm.
Period. Right? I want to reach Tyler Perry levels. I want to reach Spike Lee levels. I want to have that kind of accolade when it comes to that space. Um, so yeah, I definitely like I'm with all of these, and it's interesting because when you mention entrepreneurship, I actually don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. I'm just
Okay.
I'm a business owner. I'm on my
A
way to
lot.
I'm on my way to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know the difference though.
They don't, right?
Yeah.
And for a while I was just a freelancer. And then before that, I was just a guy who had a camera,
Hmm.
right? It's levels, and I'm not trying to skip a level. I'm trying to learn every way. Right now I'm developing relationships so that I can have mentors, right? Like, and not just in production, but in business. So I'm not at a level where I'm an entrepreneur. I think I'm a pretty decent starter. I think I'm a pretty decent runner of a company, but I have so much room to get better.
Hmm.
So at some point in time, I'll definitely be able to decide or identify what type of entrepreneur that I am. Whereas I'm a terrible starter, but I'm a great finisher, or I'm a great starter and a terrible finisher, right? And that will help me. That will help me determine my trajectory in this space. But right now, I'm just someone who's figuring these things out and reaching out to those, whether they're younger than me or older than me, that have a greater tenure in this space, and asking for help. I'm wanting to learn, taking a moment like this just to sit back and be the quiet person in the room and observe. Hey, what made you want to make that? I listened to a podcast with from a 14-year-old who retired his mother.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about,
Yeah. I
right?
know what you're talking
So,
about. Yeah.
yeah, I sat through it. He's 14. People
Yeah.
are like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what can you learn from a 14-year-old? Everything.
Everything.
His mother.
Everything. Yeah. I don't think mentorship doesn't have an age.
Yeah.
I've always said that mentorship doesn't have an age because somebody may know something. I'm pretty sure everybody knows something that you don't know.
Exactly.
Everybody. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no one that's on an island of their own that knows everything.
Mhm.
Somebody knows. Now you have to decide whether this person is a credible person for me,
Mhm.
right? Maybe that's not the person that's gonna add value into my life, but that doesn't mean that they can't add value to somebody else's life or vice versa. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think the other thing too, when we look at entrepreneurship, right? Like, and even for someone who's watching, it's like, man, what's the difference? Business ownership, entrepreneurship is the same thing. Well, think about the mom and pop shop, right? And you go, Joe, who owns the mom and pop shop, this is a random person, guys. I'm just making up somebody random. Joe he's owned his hardware store for the last 40 years, and he's never gone on vacation. That means Joe is a business owner,
Hmm.
right? And then at the same time, he's a business employee, right? Because he can't go on vacation. But as an
Unless he
entrepreneur,
unless unless he unless he hires some people, unless his business is generating enough where he can disappear. But most of those type of businesses, there's no real leverage because you're stuck in one place,
yep,
right? There's unless you
yep,
hire and you start growing and you scale it to the point where you could add more employees, more staff in, and then that way you could have an exit strategy, or you can vacation like you said,
yep,
but till then you're in one location. And that's why I never understood. I'm gonna get back to you so you could break down the entrepreneur part, but that's why I didn't never understood why. I always thought that owning a liquor store was a great business, but that's only if you have other businesses where you can allocate one person to be there to run it.
yep,
But if you're the one that's running it, then you're just working a 9 to 5 that you own. But go
yep.
ahead.
No, but that's perfect, right? Because you just smacked it right on the head. Entrepreneurs are not doing fulfillment. They're not. They're like, hey, I have this other business. They have management teams. Damn, I can't remember this woman's name. She's down in Atlanta. She is a business partner, is 2 Chainz. She has like 5 different restaurants that she does not manage at all. She was like, actually, the people on the team know that she owns the business, but she has managers for her managers so that she never has to like put out fires.
Hmm.
She walks into the business, people are seeing her picture all over the stuff, and they come in and ask her, whoa, go ask this person. They handle that.
But that's when you're making money, because that's when it's called residual income,
I,
because now the money's coming in while you sleeping, while you out somewhere, while you showering, the money's coming in. You're not working hard for that money. The money's actually working by itself to generate more money to come in, and that's the residual part of it.
But if you're still in fulfillment, like, and it, like, you know, I know people who get staff and then still do all of the damn work.
Mhm.
No, that's not the way to do it. Like,
Yeah, that's because you know what it is. They don't know how to delegate.
yeah.
And
I
here's
ask people often, and I go, do you believe in yourself? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you believe in yourself? I'm like, yeah, I believe in myself. So then why do you have a staff? Oh, because, you know, I need help. So then you don't believe in yourself enough to train them to be just as good as you are.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
don't ever see no NBA coach. Like, imagine Steve Kerr going, Steph, just give me the ball. I'll shoot the three. No, Steve, you're 60 something years old. You had time. Let me go. You know, that's what
Right.
we're doing. Where our job is to train this next wave of people, right? So that you can then buy back your time and you can do other things that can potentially grow your business. I
Mhm.
love doing stuff like this, right? I absolutely love being on podcasts and coming to speak on. I'm doing a speaking at a school in Cincinnati, like virtually in a couple days, right? Like, I love doing those things, right? Because it brings more attention to me and then my company, and then my company benefits from these things.
Mhm.
And when I meet with people, I'm like, hey, you should do more of this. It benefits you just as well as sitting on social media, even more, right? Because you're organically bringing people into your business. Oh, I don't have the time. Why? Because you're still doing fulfillment.
It's true.
You like, and like, I stress this, and of course I'm still young in this space, and I get it. I haven't amassed $1 million, and I think when people hear me say, "Oh yeah, I still live in the Bronx," they're like, "Oh, you must be poor." No, I still live in the Bronx, but it doesn't mean anything. What I'm trying to tell you is I've studied this business. I don't study Jay-Z. I study Damon Dash.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like,
mm,
I didn't study Steve Jobs. I studied the guy who bought Apple from him.
mm,
Right? Like, I'm studying the guys that and the gals that y'all don't pay attention to,
mhm.
that sit in the background, that wear ugly suits, that come off the rack, that nobody is really paying attention to, have no strong social media following, but I want to know who they are. My son's mother bought me a book a long time ago, and it's a book of entrepreneurs, right? But it wasn't the ones that we know.
Yeah.
And
Go
I was
ahead.
so mad that I didn't read it. But it was later on because I was mad. I wanted something else. It was Christmas. I was young. I was 23. I wanted something else. And I got this book instead. And, you know, one day I found myself looking for it and I realized I lost it and never realized I lost it.
Wow.
Right. And I so much value because it was their stories, how they made their first $1 million, their first $1 billion.
Mhm.
When they reached their first amass 9 figures. Like, what? Like, I have access to this information, right? But a lot of them, and when I meet so many people who run 6-figure agencies, 7-figure agencies, the number one thing they told me was the greatest thing they ever did was buy back their time by hiring people.
Absolutely.
Like, that
Absolutely.
was the greatest thing they ever did. So
Mhm.
that's the number one thing I stress with people is like, hey, you are taking on all of this work because you think that you need to be the one to fulfill it. You don't. That is your
Mhm.
ego telling you that you need to be the one to fulfill
Right.
it. That is fear telling you that the person that you're hiring will not do a good job. What you don't realize is that nobody don't put out anything until you approve it.
Right. Right.
So if you're so concerned that it's not going to be good enough, let them do it, and then you tell them to fix it.
Yeah.
But
Or you may have and I say that a lot, and if you hear me speak, it's important to have the right team members,
mhm,
because even let's say you're 100% right about the fulfillment part, but let's say there has to be a point where you realize this person may not be the one capable of doing it, and then that's when you're just gonna have to move them in a different seat, or remove them period from the, because that may not be their passion, that may not be something that they want to do,
yeah,
you know.
that even goes as far as even with partnerships.
Yeah.
You establish a part. Hey, this not working out. I get it though. I love you. This isn't working though.
Right.
You know, like, I think we'll sever this partnership and we'll move forward. So it's not even just with employees. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't even work out with your co-founders, right?
Hmm.
And it's like knowing, hey, That's okay. It's going to be okay. Like, now you have to make the decision of what to do next and how to move forward. But don't allow it all to fall on you. Like, I think that was one of the things that I struggled with the most at one
Mm-hmm.
point, until I started to like challenge people, like, hey, why do you have this role? Like, I get you were awarded this role. How are you earning this role every single day? How are
Right.
you bringing your best? I told
Right.
you when you met me, I have like a Kobe mentality. So you can only imagine what I'm thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, if you're not really ready to step through the fire and dance with the queen of dragons, get the hell out of my way and let me find somebody else who is.
Yeah.
Because I don't wake up every day to be average.
No, I don't think. The funny
Because
part is nobody does, but they don't realize that they are doing it.
interesting. So like this past weekend, my son put together a family Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you how like trained I have my family, man. He puts together this family Olympics, and we're all like, all right, cool. What do we get if we win? And he was like, just the credibility that you win. And we was like, nah, we don't want to play. Why? Because we would get a participation award. We
Yeah,
don't
there's no
win.
there's no real incentive there.
Once the incentive came back, everybody was all in. Yo, let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
But before that, when there was no incentive, what, I'm showing up just to say I did it? No, no, no. Get out of
Mm, waste of energy and waste of time.
here. Yeah.
Waste of
I
time.
won, by the way. If anybody was wondering, I won the whole family Olympics. Once again, I'm training them to be ready for the world. So, and I trash talk. I got the Kevin Garnett trash talk locked down.
That's what I like to hear, man. I remember, and I'm glad you said that because I trash talk my nieces and nephew
Mhm,
into a game of basketball, and I got them so pumped that we went out there in the rain and we was balling,
mhm.
and they balled their heart out. In my mind, I'm like, man, I'm not falling, man. I'm not hurting myself. But I like the fact that they took on the challenge and they came with it.
Mhm,
And so sometimes you really have to find ways to like poke the bear
mhm.
just to get them like prepared. Like, okay, somebody else may challenge you. Don't think that just because we family, I can't trash talk you, like, or I can't, deliver some ass whooping. But
Exactly.
you got to let them know quietly, like, hey, it could happen. It can happen any day.
Mhm.
But
I, it
you
was
got to
so
prepare them.
Yep, it was so real. My 4-year-old was standing next to his brother as like we had to do like this thing with shooting a ball through a hoop. And he was like, my 4-year-old was standing next to him going, you trash. You trash. You are so trash at this game. I was like, let's go. Get on. Get him on. Like like you're 4 years old and you come with that kind of energy, oh man, it's over when you get to high school. There's
Uh,
nobody's gonna be able to stop him.
but that's what you want though. That's
Yeah,
what you want. But
yeah.
you also want to have that growth mindset to let them know that hey, I'm good now, but I could get better.
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm only starting. Like this is a at 100%. You got to always look at it like I'm not at 100.
Mhm.
I'm at a quarter or I'm at 50%, whatever the case may be. But you have to remind your ego and remind yourself like, hey, there's still a lot of room to grow, and
Absolutely.
we're just getting started. Yeah, no, but what you said is so true, man. But I'm glad we got a chance to connect today. It
Yeah.
was awesome. It was great. Touch back on one thing I would like to circle back on is when you broke it down when you said, working on the documentary about what is black.
Mhm.
And, some people think that you're too black. What was the quote you said? You're too
Uh,
black to
too,
be
too black to be American, and I'm too American to be African. So what?
African American. Yeah. And a lot of us don't realize how much those words impact us. Like it's not necessarily what people think of us, but how much it impacts us within the circumference of each other.
Mhm.
And I remember because I was raised in East New York, Brooklyn, and this guy's like a brother to me. He's actually a brother to me, and he was in Brownsville, and we were right next door to each other. And it wasn't until we got a lot older he said something to me that resonated deep. It stayed with me. Stayed with me so much that I wanted to make a difference, because he said, "You're one of us, but you're not one of us." And I couldn't understand what the hell does that mean. And I got it later on. Like, just because you're raised in the hood, right? A lot of people have this misconception of it's like having a difference between a thug and a street guy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's they're from the same areas,
Yep.
but completely different,
Yep.
right? So when he said that, at first I didn't understand, but then I got it. Like, you're one of us, but you're not one of us. So it's
Mhm.
like, even though you're raised in the hood, there's different type of people that's in those neighborhoods,
Yep.
and different breeds of animals that's in that neighborhood. But then it impacts us because we look at each other differently.
Yeah.
We look at each other like, yeah, you're one of us, but you're not really one of us. And that's how the mindset that been programmed, where it's a divide and conquer. Is like, all right, I'm gonna instill this in you. Where my favorite analogy, when people say, like, you're light skin, you're brown skin, and I always used to say, what do you put down when you put down in your driver's license? Like, when you fill out an application, do you put light skin? Do you put brown skin?
Mm.
Do you put dark? Like, I don't understand it, because clearly for me, when you put down on the application, or you put down on a or anything, they just have one category, which is black, right? And then they have the Caribbean things that they have going on, but they always says black, African American, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So this divide and conquer thing that they instilled in us, it's only hurting us. And it seems like they looked at, overall, we're all looked at as one
Mhm.
through other eyes.
Yes.
But within us,
Mhm.
we look at each other
That's different.
as different.
Mhm.
All right. And I never understood that.
Yeah.
Like, I never, so I'm glad you're coming out with that documentary. I think it's gonna have such an impact on people. So that way we have to understand that at the end of the day, we still won, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we have to have that uncomfortable conversation. I think we spend too much time talking about colorism, and when I mean, it's still a conversation that needs to happen, right? But we also need to talk about, like, the removal of it's like this whole thing. I'm pulling your black card, or your black card is revoked, or you're not black enough. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, why do we
Yeah.
keep doing that? Like, but and it also has made other people comfortable with saying it. Like, people have told me that they've had white friends tell them, like, "Oh, I'm more black than you," because they listen to a lot of 50. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see the documentary, it's gonna blow your mind. Like, somebody told you that, like, yeah, like, because I don't listen to 50, I wasn't black enough, and this is coming from a white dude, right? Like, but when these things are happening publicly, it makes people comfortable to do it to us to our face. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there has to be a deeper conversation around what our culture is. I know a lot of people have tried to go out and do it on their own and identify
Mm.
what Black culture is. This is the reason why we have a holiday such as Kwanzaa. It was an initiative that had a nice following, but I'm not sure if it has the support that it used to have when it first started. Because it was done on its own, right? We have to have a conversation around, like, what is religion to Black people, what religions do belong to us, what is ours, like, and what is our language. So many things have been taken from us. Like, we kind of start something and it becomes everybody's, right? Like, hip hop, oh, it's everybody's. Blues, it's everybody's. Afrobeat, everybody's. What's ours, right? Like, you know,
Mm.
like soul food. Everybody eats soul food if you're from the South. That's a lie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, you know,
Right.
what truly belongs to us. Let's have this really uncomfortable conversation. Interestingly enough, if you're Black and you're from Denver, you love chili. Not chili. Green. It's a green sauce, like this green sauce, like it's a Tex-Mex. They love
Yeah.
Tex,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, wow, I didn't know that, right? So when this documentary comes, it's gonna open up a lot of people's eyes to realize, like, you know, if there was a rainbow for Blackness, it would be forever going, right? And
Mm.
but there's so many things that we do universally. There's so many things that we say universally that belong to us. We just don't think we all say it, or we just don't think we all do it. Um, I love the
Mm.
thing that you said about there's a difference between being a street dude and a thug. I definitely was the street dude, while all of my friends would have like the thugs in a sense.
Yeah.
But you know, like even with that, like we all there's certain things that we understand. Like, you know, the street dude knows just as much as a thug. Like, that's a cop car when he sees an Impala that's all dark, right? With hubcaps. And
Yeah.
you know, like a street dude knows
I
like
just, yeah.
something fishy is going on. Like,
I
right?
can't wait for the documentary to come out.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to view it. I like what you're doing with the Nine brand.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
think it's dope, man. And hey, man, I'm just grateful you were able to come on this show. I look forward to speaking to you again. Just let them know where they can reach you at.
Definitely. Thank you. And thank you for having me as a guest. You can follow me on Instagram because I really only use that at Dre underscore Manning. That's DRE underscore MANNING. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find everything from me. I don't really use Twitter, and I don't accept people on Facebook. So yeah, definitely, man. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for extending this offer out to me. You didn't know this, but when you reached out to me, it was actually my birthday, the same day that you reached out to me.
Oh man, happy belated.
Thank you, thank you. I was like, damn, this is a great birthday gift. So I was actually celebrating my wife. But yeah, man, thank you so much for this opportunity to come on here, tell my story, tell the story of the Nine brand, and really continue to push this effort and to make impact.